Sa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we have the Q&A session. So we'll start with the question we stopped last time. I hope everyone can see the question file. I think we discussed up to, I think the today's one is this one. Can you explain more about the particle practice in which we analyze formation of the Pāli word, for instance, samapajjati and so forth. So it's a question about the word formation. To be true, I'm not that much good in word formation. And also you have to keep in mind, when you are studying Pāli, in these days, we have especially two types of word formations. One is traditional word formation. The traditional grammarians explain a certain word formations. And also we have modern philological word formations. That is basically based on Sanskrit and also some other Prakrit languages. It can be either with the modern, the new Sanskrit, or the Vedic Sanskrit, or classical Sanskrit we call. Classical Sanskrit is the modernized, like already developed one. So here, when we say word formation, if you go into study with a teacher who has studied the traditional Pāli, they will have very strict kind of word formations, and also there can be various ways of a word formation. One word can be made in various ways according to the tradition. And also when we do the word formation, sometimes in the tradition, they look into the meaning of the word and try to construct it. So it's like according to the languages, first the language was made and the grammar was made later to explain what are the meanings. So in the same way, when a Pāli word is found, normally we have a basic word formation, and also when the tradition evolves, we have made some new word formations. In the word formation should match with the meaning. So therefore, when the tradition, with the time passing, the tradition has introduced, somehow they would bring a word formation to each and every word. That is how we explain. Then according to the philological aspect, Pāli is a language which has evolved with time, and that normally that is how the languages, that's how languages are made. So the mother languages or the sister languages influence a certain language. So that's why we, in philological aspect, we greatly rely upon the Sanskrit part, and then we try to make the Pāli words out of it. It's like Sanskrit words have, we can call its formation was distorted, was changed by the local folks while they were talking and conversing and using the language. So keep in mind, there are two ways of word analysis. So it's, when we are studying modern day, present day, it's better to study the both aspects. But if you want to understand the meaning of the teachings based on the tradition, that is very important. So when you study the Buddhist teachings, we can have few various aspects. We can directly study the suttas and try to find out the meanings through the suttas based on our own ability. That is one way. When we come to the Theravadians have a very strict tradition maintained for many years, many thousand years. So how the tradition interprets the word is another thing. So when we are studying the Buddhist teachings, especially the Theravadians, any other tradition, it's common to any other tradition, we stick to the tradition. So that is how the traditionally someone would explain. Then sometimes we study by ourselves and try to interpret the Dhamma based on our own knowledge. Another way is historical aspect. Some would try to analyze the teachings based on the historical evidences and also the influence of the other languages. So when we try to study Dhamma based on philological aspect, sometimes there can be differences with the what the tradition explains. So that is because how we try to explain it based on the meanings of the words, comparing it with the other languages. Then we also ironically see sometimes the Buddha himself has changed the meanings of the words based on his own philosophy. Like, for example, how the word paribhajaka, kusala was made. They are normally, the formation, the definitions are not that, doesn't fit much to the normal standards of the Sanskrit grammar standards. So it also shows that the Buddha himself has changed the meanings by himself. So that is also another aspect that we cannot fully rely upon the philological aspect to explain the Buddhist teachings, because there are a number of evidences that the Buddha didn't follow the philological rules that, as we think, he has given completely new definitions on that. So that's why K.R. Norman also sometimes says in some suttas, there's a very famous sutta that the Buddha defines words. It was Sabbiya Sutta or Bahiya Sutta. Sabbiya, if I remember, it's Sabbiya Sutta. So he says the commentary has maintained the ancient word formations, but in the sutta we find completely new definitions that cannot be justified in terms of the philological aspect. So what I want to say is the Buddha, the founder of the tradition, also has changed the meanings based on his philosophy. He had various purposes, various objectives for that. So then I just want to emphasize now, when you are studying a tradition, studying the Theravada tradition, it's very useful to have the philological aspect, but also we have to look into how the tradition has explained this. Because traditionally, when we try to explain the word formation, we don't rely upon the, now if we go into the philological aspect, I feel like we most rely upon the meaning of the word, the historical meaning of the word, how it is used in Sanskrit or how it was used in other Prakrit languages. And we try to get the meaning based on this linear, like we rely upon the meaning of the other word, how it got, from which word it got evolved. So that's how we try to trace the meaning when we go in the linguistic approach. But when we go into the traditional approach, what the commentators, what the tradition has done is they have the fundamental teachings first, like what is the philosophy behind this teaching. Then based on the philosophy, they try to interpret the meaning. So they don't give much emphasis upon the word formation or upon the meaning of the word. They give more emphasis on the philosophy. So if a certain word, its ordinary meaning doesn't match the philosophy as it was maintained, the basic philosophy, they would try to explain the meaning. They would change the ordinary meaning and try to explain, in this context, this word gives a special meaning to fit the philosophy. So traditional aspect is they have a very solid fundamental philosophy of the Buddha's teachings, and looking into this philosophy, they create the word formation. They give the meanings to the words. They even change the meanings of the words, which were the ordinary meaning. But in the linguistic approach, we first take the meaning of the word and then try to explain. So what happens when we come in the linguistic approach, sometimes it contradicts with the tradition, because tradition is sticking to the philosophy which was maintained in Abhidhamma and Suttas, and also which are found only in the commentarial tradition. The philosophy, there's a certain philosophy. Philosophy means the fundamental teachings. So based on that, they try to explain the word formations and the grammar. But when we come in the linguistic approach, we give reliance upon the meaning of the words, meaning of that word found in the mother language or the sister language. It means basically Sanskrit or Vedic Sanskrit. And then therefore there can be some changes. So when you study the they will try to connect it to the meaning of a word. So sometimes according to linguistics, certain word formations are very odd or very strange. So this is what the basic introduction that I would like to give on the word formation. So now I'll go into explain the format, how many types of word formations are there. So before that, if you have any questions regarding that introduction, you can ask.
Bhante,
Yes,
I would
Brother
like.
Robin.
Yes, so Bhante mentioned that. So if we use the modern approach, the linguistic approach, like where they consider the meaning of the word itself first, sometimes it will contradict with the teaching, Bhante. So
Teaching
is
means the tradition. I'm
yes,
telling the tradition,
our
the
tradition.
Theravada tradition. Yeah.
Is that one of the reason that there is like rejection toward the commentary, Bhante?
Yes, it's one reason. It's one of the reasons, not all. One reason is because when we have the research approach, always in the research methodology, we would always rely upon the most ancient manuscript, and then commentaries are secondary literature. So always a researcher would try to go to the most ancient, the original text, and they would try to interpret it by themselves. So therefore, commentaries appear to be something secondary interpretations of the later generation. That is one reason. So they rely upon the canon and try to interpret the canon based on how they understand it. It's one kind of approach. So that is one reason why commentaries are kept in a given the low esteem. Then another explanation is when you come with that's why when you another aspect is when they come with the meaning of then they rely upon the meaning of the word and try to interpret the meaning teachings. But the tradition has relied upon a philosophy which is not explicitly, which is not clearly which is not clearly defined within the teachings. So therefore the tradition maintains the philosophy. So that is, as you said, that is another reason why commentaries are being contradicting. So what is a modern complaint is when we read the suttas, it's very easy to understand, but the commentaries make it more complicated. Why is the reason is commentary is relying upon a philosophy which is found within the tradition. That philosophy is not fully explained in the canon at one place. It's not only found, also not found completely in Abhidhamma. That philosophy was developed based on many sources. So that's why you cannot find that. What is, if you someone asks what are the fundamental Buddhist philosophy, it is scattered in the tradition. It is scattered in the literature. You can some canon, some are from Sutta, some are from Abhidhamma, some are from books like Patisambhida, Magga, and some are only found in the commentarial tradition, in sub-commentaries. So we all take them and we develop that philosophy. So some have been added later, that is for sure. So that is why. So we rely upon that. The commentary rely upon that that philosophy and try to interpret the teachings. When we come into the modern aspect, they go to the main source, that is the canon, and they try to they explain the timeline of the canon, and also how the words came was from that ancient words which did existed in those days, and they go into the meanings of the words first and then try to interpret them. So they would explain the Buddhist philosophy based on their how they understand the Buddhist teaching. I'm not condemning or looking down on that approach. That is the modern research approach. So according to them, commentaries would appear something secondary to the explanation thing. And the next thing is the thing is now why the tradition is quite important. This is tradition, the philosophy the tradition maintains is not a work of a one person. That is the very most important thing. It's now when we go into some commentaries of the Nagarjuna's commentaries, for example, that is Sunyatavada, or we can call them Madhyamikas tradition. In now Nagarjuna explained a certain teaching, and this was interpreted by another commentator, and it was interpreted by that same teachings were interpreted by 2-3 commentators. Sometimes the 2-3 commentators fully contradict, not in some words, but entirely contradict with their idea. Some would say Nagarjuna didn't mention about any reality. Some would say his approach was to always to question, and like they have arguments within themselves, not on very minor factors, even on the major factor. But the Theravadians thing is, it was not written, the commentaries are not written by one person. That is the very important point. It was maintained by a tradition. So the tradition had a certain way of interpreting, but there were some sub schools. So like the forest tradition in the Maggavihāri, tradition in the Chittala Pabbata, tradition in the South India. So there were some sub traditions, but they were all bound within the main tradition. So their main interpretations you can find in the commentaries. The main interpretations, even they were written in Sri Lanka, even they were written in South India, their main interpretations are similar. They are very same. There are some arguments in the commentaries about the like minor factors. So, and also when my Abhivansa friend, he was studying, and when he's studying in the Abhivansa in the Myanmar, so they have a technique of writing a commentary. They say this is how a commentator would think. This is the approach made by the commentator. So sometimes my friend said, sometimes they interpret the commentary. They are in the exams. They have to write an answer explaining a commentarial paragraph. So then after explaining that paragraph, when they check the sub-commentary, they say their answer is similar, not fully the same, similar to the explanation given in the sub-commentary. So what does this say is, even now when you follow the technique, when you follow how to interpret a commentary, you can write the own sub-commentary. So that was the same technique which was used by the sub-commentators during the after the 9th century AD. So what does it mean that they have made? It was not an individual effort. Commentaries were not individual ideas. How normally when we say commentary in English, that is the interpretation of a person upon a book. But Theravadian commentaries, that is how the tradition explains it. Like it was maintained by a tradition, agreed upon by almost all the Mahatheras in a complete tradition, whether they are in South India or Sri Lanka or parts of Sri Lanka. There are some arguments about the minor points, the lifespan of how long the Buddha could have lived, or lives, like some very minor factors. There are some arguments. So therefore, when we say the commentaries, another one thing I want to add is, it's not a work of it's not a work of a Buddhaghosa. So when Buddhaghosa want to add something, he would say, this is my idea. But it is something maintained by a tradition. So it's not very, it's always worthy to give attention to a tradition. So therefore, commentaries in the Theravada tradition are not the personal interpretations of different teachers. It is the recording done by one person, how the tradition would explain the teaching. So if I bring a new idea to the explanations, that would be discussed among many Mahatheras in the tradition, and if it seems good, they would accept it. Otherwise, they would reject it. That is how the tradition came upon. So that is also I want to add when you said why the commentaries are and the text are different, and why some modern scholars doesn't give that much respect to the commentaries.
Oh, okay, Bhante. Very amazing explanation. Like so, like they have already have the system established to to make the commentary, right, Bhante? So,
Yes, they are technique. They in Dhammacharya they teach. Like for example, they analyze one paragraph in the commentary. Each and every paragraph they can explain it 10 ways. In 10 ways they can analyze it. So there were analytical approaches how to explain the text.
Okay, Bhante. Thank you so much, Bhante.
Hello, Bhante.
Yes, Sally.
I think sometimes your connection is not good, so I cannot hear clearly.
Sorry. Sorry for that. Because
yes. So Bante's last explanation was cut in the moment of analytical explanation.
it's like there is an analytical approach to make to write the commentaries and sub-commentary. There was a method used for that. So in the Dhammacharya and Abhivansa examinations, mostly Dhammacharya, they train the students. So if someone studied very thoroughly, he has the skill how to interpret a commentary. Like there was a method, how to use the definition, how do we make the approach, what kind of question should be asked, and why this question was not asked by the commentator. So they train the students in that way. So what is this? What is this sentence, and why this was reconfirmed? The different approach. So likewise, they ask the questions, and they have a system. So it shows that it can be now. The thing is, when my friends say quite similar, not the same, quite similar to what the sub-commentator has said. Even there is a technique of writing the commentaries.
Okay, Bhante. Thank you very much, Bhante. So like this add more confidence of mine towards the commentary and Tika and Bhante, having heard this explanation.
So shall we go to the word formation? So in the word formations, we have two types of word formations. Word formations made with roots. Then word formations made with nouns. So even though we have a secondary word formation, we call secondary derivatives, these nouns also is evolved from word formations made with roots. So there, in the end, we have only one type of word formation, that is always a word formation. Now, when we go to the linear we always find in the beginning we make a word like out of a noun we make another noun, that is called secondary derivatives. Taddita we call. Out of a noun we make another noun, but noun is not a root. Root is a verb. Root is not a word actually. It's a cluster of letters that has a meaning of action, of an action. Roots have meaning of actions. So that noun, which was turned into another noun, is originally, according to the tradition, is made out of a root. It's made out of a root. So as I have studied in the philology, this idea, every word is made out of a root, it comes from the ancient traditions of Sanskrit. So there was, in the ancient, very ancient time, there was an argument between two Sanskrit grammarians whether every word is made out of a root or it is not necessarily. So one grammarian argued that it is not necessarily that every word is made out of a root, but another grammarian argued that every word should be made out of a root. So in this debate, as I know, in the later, the one who argued that every word should be made out of a root, he won the argument. His argument became more popular. So now, then the Sanskrit maintained the idea that every word should be made out of a root. So then what happened, this idea has come into the Pāļi also. So what happens, each and every word what we see in Pāļi, they would try to explain it with the root. Sometimes even the indeclinables. I have seen some books they try to explain it based on the roots. personally, I am not very happy with that approach, but that is how. So if you find a word in a Pāli, there will be always an explanation. Even though it's a secondary noun, they will explain the first noun, and then that first noun is made out of a root. So that's, so in the end, what happens, word formation, in the beginning, somehow there is a root is connected, even for the indeclinables. That is, even I have seen api, the indeclinable, they try to make it out of a root. I think these are, I feel they are later constructions. Most of, for, it's like, I'm very confident that they should be in later constructions. But that is how the tradition maintains. So then when we have formations made with roots, we have two types of word formation. Out of the made with a root, we get a word, right? We get a word. So these words mainly, if I give up the and verbs. We have nouns and out of roots are kitaka. Normally they are called kitaka. Words are called akyata. Nouns made out of words are called kitaka. And verbs are called akyata. So now the basic word formation, normally a basic word formation would be, whether it is for a kitaka or an akyata, it will be, we have a prefix, then it can be many prefixes, not only one prefix. Then we have the root. So then we have, sometimes we have a sign or a suffix. It can be a suffix or a sign, and a suffix. Sign is not always. It is, this is the basic word formation, whether it's a verb or either it's a noun. So now, if it is a noun made out of root, we normally call it a kitaka. If it is a verb, we call it a akyata. Then out of a kitaka, that is for you extra knowledge, I think some students will know that these kitaka nouns can be added with another suffix, and we can call it a tadita. Tadita means secondary nouns. Because kitaka itself is a noun. So this is a secondary noun, means this second noun is made out of basic noun. Basic noun, always in Pāli, basic noun. So primary derivative, we call primary nouns. We can call primary nouns. These primary nouns, it's are made out of a root. So it's a always, so when we go to here, we are talking about either primary nouns or the verbs. Out of a primary, take another noun. So if you talk about this tadita formation, it's a noun plus suffix. So noun plus suffix is a tadita. Here I didn't write the primary word because a primary noun can be made a secondary noun and tadita, and out of a secondary noun you can make another tadita. We don't call it the third aspect, but we can still call it a secondary noun because it's a noun made out of a noun. Tadita can be made another tadita, that tadita can be made another tadita. So out of a noun, you can make more nouns. But you out of a noun, because kitaka has to be with a connected with a root. It's a primary noun. Kitaka is always a primary noun. Primary noun is being made. That is not a root anymore. It's a noun. That noun can be changed into further nouns. There is no problem. So the word formation, what we are talking here, is about primary nouns and the verbs. Primary nouns and the verbs. So then with these suffixes, there are various types of suffixes. For example, if we say the prefix, we have in Pāļi, we have 20 prefix, right? This 20 you can find in grammar books like per, para, ni, ni, and so forth. Kaccayana and Moggallana have two differences. They all have 20 now, 20 prefixes, but for instance, we have ni, like ni and long ni, ni and long I. So in one tradition, we consider these are two prefixes, but one tradition says it's only ni, and we add another prefix to my memory was our and o. Now the argument is there are ni and ni. Then we also have o and ava. So one tradition doesn't accept this o. So instead of that, they take ni and ni both. One tradition doesn't accept the long ni. It's only short ni. So instead of that, they take the o as a prefix. So in the end, they have the same number, but there's a slight difference about the prefix. 19 prefixes are equal in both the traditions. There is an argument regarding one prefix. Prefix is something that you add before the noun. There can be many prefixes before one root. Before root, something that you add before root is called a prefix. Then root is a word, a letter, group of letters which have a verbal meaning. Root has the meaning of action. Root is a group of letters which have the meaning of an action. Then we have sign. Sign is normally a conjugational sign, no specific meaning. This we normally we use for the verbs. Normally we use for the verbs. Sometimes even for the kitaka, we have some conjugational signs. Conjugational signs means that is something added in between the suffix and the suffix and the root. This is the main basic structure, suffix and the root. This sign has no meaning. It has no meaning at all. So we call it just a sign. This sign would change the appearance of the word. For example, when we make the bhu, for example, if you take the pach plus a plus t, we have pachati. A has no meaning. This ha has no meaning. So there are various types of conjugational signs. You can study this when you go to a grammar book, any grammar book, even a modern normal exercise grammar book. You can find there are 7 groups for the with various conjugational signs. 7 groups of roots with various conjugational signs. Sometimes the conjugational sign can be dropped even. It may not be used. It has no specific meaning. It's just a sign. Then when we come to the suffixes, suffix is a word, is a letter, is a group of letters. Prefixes are also a group of letters. These are a bunch of letters. So letters, group of letters, but it has specific meaning. It has been. Now, if you look into the root, have a meaning of an action. It has a meaning of an action, right? How about the suffix, the group of letters that has some certain meanings or indicators, indications. So likewise, for example, sometimes the suffix explains about the time. Suffix explains about the time. Now, for example, pachamana and pachita. Pachita, or when we say time, pachita refers to an action that has been already done. right? But pachamana, the action is already happening. So the suffix indicates, now because suffix is connected to a root, right? Suffix is connected to a root has just the meaning of an action. So whether this action has already happened or is happening or will happen is determined by the suffix. Suffix determines the time of the action. The root time meaning. Then it also have the syntax. Syntax means action. The root has the meaning of an action. Now take the action as something we normally do in practical life. For an action to be accomplished, there should be a doer. There are some actions need an object, some actions need a location, some actions need an instrument. All are called syntaxes. Here I'm showing the syntax. Syntax means the things that are necessary for the action to happen. So in a suffix gives emphasis syntax. Suffix gives emphasis upon a certain syntax. One suffix gives emphasis on one syntax. Sometimes it gives the emphasis on the doer. Sometimes it gives the emphasis on the object. Sometimes it gives the emphasis on the instrument. Sometimes the dative. Sometimes the locative. So what happens? The final word, whether it's a verb or a noun, this noun or verb represents that syntax. Now, for an example, pachita. Pachita, the ta suffix has the past meaning, has emphasized upon the object. So pachita refers to something which has been cooked, not the one who cooked. Pachita gives emphasis upon the one thing which has been cooked, not the one who cooked. If you say pachaka with the ending of ka, not ta, ka, it emphasizes upon the person who do the action. Person who the thing that is being cooked, it gives emphasis on the person who does that. So likewise, different syntaxes. Then we have another meaning. It's called kriya visesa. Kriya visesa. Kriya visesa means some roots, like roots have the meaning of action, right? Root have the meaning of an action. So this action, sometimes if that action is done repeatedly as a nature, like kujjana, like if someone who keeps on getting angry always, that is, we call it, that is his nature. That action is the nature of that person. If someone cooks always, that is the one who cooks regularly, not the one who cooks once or twice per month or once in a while. So likewise, if someone does the action always, that is called kriya visesa. That is regularity. It's a special attribute. It is not emphasized with the root. It's emphasized by the suffix. Only some suffixes have kriya visesa. Not all. Sometimes a certain action, now for instance, attaching. So if an object is attractive, we call that object deserves attraction. Araha, deserves attraction. So likewise, it is also connected with the, some philosophical aspect of the grammar. So that deservedness is also a kriya visesa. So likewise, the suffix indicates the time, suffix indicates the syntax, and suffix indicates the kriya visesa, means it indicates the certain attributes of the action. And also these suffixes we normally the word that is made in the end, we normally put the masculine, neuter, or feminine gender. Prefix are 20. What the prefix does is prefix sometimes change the meaning of the verb, of the root, change the meaning of the root. Sometimes, sometimes it increases the meaning of the root, emphasize more upon the meaning of the root. Sometimes it gives a completely opposite meaning. Sometimes it can give a meaning. So likewise, prefix, traditionally we discuss three aspects. And next thing is then some Abhidhamma sub-commentary explaining on one place given in this Abhidhamma commentary suggests that it's also connected to the grammar. So he says prefix itself doesn't have a verbal meaning. Prefix itself doesn't have a verbal meaning. For example, this is for students who like to learn advanced grammar. For example, anu plus bhu, if you take. Then we have a and t. These are word. I think it's a very simple word formation. U change into o and o change into av, right? I think most of the students know this word formation. So anubhavati means consumes, eats or consumes something. So bhu has the meaning of existing. Bhu has the meaning of existing. So then what happens? There is a word in the Abhidhamma commentary, bhutva. Bhutva apagata. Apagatu panna. Apagata plus one word, panna. So the commentary explains as anubhavitva. They explain it as anubhav. Bhutva is a gerund, right? Bhutva means departed, having existed. Something that has vanished, having existed, is called bhutva apagatupan. It's one word actually, right? So this bhutva is explained as in the commentary explains bhutva as anubhavitva, anubhutva, anubhavitva can be anubhutva. So we normally or experience like eating. The commentary says this says so it is true that anubhavitva, like one meaning is bhutva apagatupanna is reality that has arisen and passed away. Another explanation given in the commentary is bhutva is having experienced the taste of the flavor of the object, arammana rasa, having experienced the taste of the object or the flavor of the object highly and passed away. The realities that have passed away, having experienced the taste of the object more than others. So the second explanation is the realities that have passed away. Apagatupanna is the realities that have passed away, having existed. So sub-commentary says, why do we, having existed is clear, bhutva is very clear. But why do we say having experience? That is because even though here the root anu is, the prefix anu is not here. Prefix anu is not here. In the explanation it is given. So the sub-commentators say, what is the function of the prefix is to elaborate the meanings found in the root. Elaborating the meanings found in the root. The root has the meaning. Now, we normally say the root bhu has the meaning of existing. At the same time, root itself has the meaning of consuming. So what has happened is anu, out of the many meanings the root has, the anu emphasize upon the consuming part, not on the existing part. So another prefix may focus on another aspect. So what they're saying is, so in the end, what happened, a group of letters which have the meaning of an act, actually in reality has many meanings hidden in there. So what prefix does is, prefix focuses on root. So then this would change. We said prefix change the meaning, implies the meaning. According to this explanation, all those meanings were already existing within the root. All those meanings were already existing within the root. So according to the sub-commentary, what the prefix does is emphasizes upon one of the meanings of the root. So then what happens, the final products give a different meaning. So that is for some students who are interested in further grammar. So prefix, I repeat again, prefix, what the prefix does is, prefix emphasize, the root has many meanings of many actions. The meaning of a root can be referred to many actions. Prefix emphasize upon a certain meaning of that lot. Then the suffix time, it refers to the time, it refers to the syntax, it refers to the Kriya Visesa, special aspects of the action. Then the conjugational sign has no meaning at all. So these are the basic structures, basic meanings of the word formation. Yeah, so if you have any questions on this.
So Bhante, we mentioned the Buddhawa, Apagata, Udāna. So in the commentary, something like they use Anubuddhawa.
Anubuddha, yeah.
Yeah, they already use like a Jirana form, Arubuddhawa. Like that one.
Anubuddha, yeah.
Yeah.
Anubhavitva or Anubuddha. So what they want to emphasize is without, so root itself has the meaning already. The Anubhavati meaning is found in the root bhu, eating meaning. So normally Anu does emphasize upon that consuming meaning, and the commentator says without the prefix also, that root can refer to that consuming meaning. So that's what they argue. They have given few other examples on this. It's not just a one example. There are some examples that without the prefix also, because why is that? The root contains the meaning of the action, not the prefix. Prefix doesn't have such a meaning. Prefix is just an indicator, or prefix just focuses upon a meaning. The roots that the meaning that the root originally has. Is it okay?
Yes, Bhante.
Hello, am I clear? Okay.
Yes.
So now if you go to the word formation. Yeah. Sorry. We have prefix plus the root. Then we have a suffix, right? So then for example, if you take an example, I'll give few examples. We go into the a verb, right? We call it the ava plus root is gum plus a plus t become our gacchati, right? So this is the conjugational sign. This suffix is presente. That we have to learn. There's no shortcut. We have to learn the present tense suffixes. Syntax. This syntax says this is kattukaraka. It emphasizes on the person who do the action. It has no special kriya visesa. So then what happens? For example, if you say apa, easy to understand. Apa goes away, departs away. And if you say pach, the root pach plus ya, this ya is also a suffix. It's a kammakaraka suffix. It's not a conjugational sign. So there are two suffixes. There are special two suffixes. So then pachati is cooked, right? So this ya indicates, now this also can be called as a sign. Right? This can, because we say pachati belongs to the action. One is one who undergoes the action, one who is affected by the action. Pachati refers is a passive voice verb. So according to the explanation, you will find the syntax, the object is hidden in the suffix, not in the ya. Actually, the ti suffix has the meaning of an object. Ya is just an indicator to show that this suffix prefix, this is a passive voice verb. But traditionally, we would explain ya as a not as a sign to mind memory. But anyway, here grammatically, this the syntactual meaning is hidden in the ti suffix. For example, if you say pach, another pach plus ta, then we become pachita. So this ta also has the meaning, is a time past meaning. Syntax is object, like kammakaraka. So this refers to something which has already been cooked, which has already been cooked. Then if you take pachaka, and this a become long, pachaka. This pachaka, the time of this ka, aka, is all three times. It doesn't specifically say which time. It can be past, present, or future. Syntax is katu, the one who does the action, one who cooks. There's a kriya visesa. This is not a normal person who cooks. This is a person who cooks regularly. Normally, pachaka is a person who is a cook. He's not a person who cooks once in a while. He normally cooks regularly. So likewise, this we have to, if you have this basic structure and try to understand this, we can you will be able to construct words very easily. There is another specific root like pach plus ape plus ti. This ape is not considered as a conjugational sign, but actually it is a sign. But normally we don't put it as a conjugational sign like this a and all. So what happens? This in the end, this pacha peti. Pacha peti means caused to cook. Caused to. He's not cooking by himself. He caused someone else to cook. So this ti suffix, syntax. Time is present tense. Syntax is hetukatu. Is the one who does, one who makes other ones to do the action. One who makes the other one to do. There is no kriya viseshan on that. These are causative. This is passive, right? This is passive. Passive sign. It's a causative sign. Causative sign and a passive sign, right? Actually, the syntax, time, and kriya visesa is hidden in the prefix. It's hidden, suffix. Sorry, it's hidden in the suffix, right? This I, this I and a has no meaning. Even ya and ape are, it's, when we analyze, it seems like indicators. So even we say they have meaning or not, they seems like indicators. So likewise, if you can analyze this, if you have this basic knowledge, and if you try to analyze them, you will be able to find it out. Then as some students may have asked the question, how, when you are give that, for that, there are no shortcuts to my understanding. You can look in, you have to memorize some roots, you have to understand how they are constructed. Otherwise, just looking at a noun, looking at a word, you will not be able to figure out its root. And also, when we go into further literature, we find the same word can be constructed by various approaches. We can construct with various approaches and different routes. Yeah, so this is what I would like to share about this point. So the next question, or is it okay? Shall I ask question?
Yes,
So
Bhante.
Bhante, when we learn English, we know the pronunciation. For example, externalism has the stress on ter. When we look at Pāli word, we don't know where to. When you look at the Pāli word, you pronounce it as Sinhala, your mother tongue. But for a foreigner, how can we know it? Now, traditionally, there is no stress in Pāli. Traditionally, we don't recognize the stress. But some philologists have to be stressed. So they call us stress and emphasis on which one to be emphasized. So unfortunately, from my language, and it's not found in the modern Hindi also, as far as I know. So therefore, we don't. I'm unable to give an answer how stress. So normally, if you take like anugachati, traditionally, as I grow up with this language. If you stress upon anu, or if you stress upon ga, or if you say cha, it doesn't make any difference in the meaning. So even you anugachati or anugachati, a Pali reader would always understand this, to my knowledge. I'm not sure whether that stress existed while the Buddha was alive. I'm not sure about that. So, but if you look into the Geiger's book, the Pali grammar, he has explained how the words have changed, how some words have some roots, some vowels have reduced or become u based on the stress. So they emphasize on that. Sorry, because as you have put in the question, since my mother tongue has no stress, so I'm unable to give any explanation on this. Because in Pali, as we Sinhalese Sri Lankans pronounce, we don't put any stress on any word. Like stress. So if any questions on this, because even in grammar, they don't talk about it.
Yes, Bhante.
Any further questions? Yes.
My question is not on the stress, but regarding regarding English here. Oh, in English we have subject to mood. So Bhante, in Pali, do we have such kind of mood in Pali?
Subject to moods. Can you explain? I forgot. I have learned this topic. I forgot what is subject to mood is.
Subject to mood. Always say something like if we imagine something at the present moment or in the past or in the future. We say, if I were you, I would such and such. So something that is not true, but like if I'm in your situation, I would do something differently, you know. So we use the word like, if I were you, I would do such and such and such. So we call it subjunctive mood. So in Pali, do we have such kind of mood? You know what I mean, right?
We have a mood called, Yeah, and I think I understood. I'll explain if I didn't get the meaning, please correct it. So what in Pali there is a mood called Kalatipatti, but it's not as you said. It says that if this didn't happen, this would have happened. If he hadn't had he not done that, had he done that, he would have become so. So there is a usage of verbs, kind of a mood in Pali. But if you say, if I were you, I would do that, we use normally the optative case. We use the optative case.
Okay.
So we normally, I think you know the optative case. It's like, we can also use it,
Bhante, is
Kalatipatti also.
mood. Is optative mood, not optative case. Optative mood.
Yeah, optative mood. Sorry. Yeah, mood. Sorry. Yeah, optative mood. Sorry. Sakte ahang. Jisang. If I had ordained Dani Arahang, Satiham Pabadisang, Ahang, we don't need to put Ahang again. Ahang, Araha, Abhisang. If I had I ordained, I would have been an Arahant by now. Arahant, right? I would have been an Arahant. So you can also use Sache, Ahang, Abhisang, Dani, Ahang, Araha, yeah, Abhisang, right? So yeah, if had I been ordained, sometimes we can also use the optative case here for the second clause. Sateham Pabadisang Idani Araha Bhaviya. Yeah, this is the way we use. Had it happened, this would have happened. But there is one usage of this Kalatipatti. The Buddha, when the ordination was given to the bhikkhunis, that the statement which was given by the Buddha, had this was not given, this would have happened in the future. So there is one usage in this Kalatipatti. He refers to, now he had already given the ordination. So had I not given, this would have happened in the future. So one Kalatipatti is using the past, about the past, and one, the second phrase is telling something about the future. So with the Kalatipatti. So this is what we normally use in such cases.
Thank you, Bhante.
So Bhante, there's one very famous verse in the Diviraga, because these days I read it. It's a no jasang, no jameseya, na bavisa, na me bavisati. So when the commentary expand about the asang, they use bavayang. I think you heard that one. That this is one of the michaditi.
Yeah, I have heard it.
Very famous. So I will listen to our Bible.
So it's also about like something Kalatipatti, right?
Yeah, they both have the optative mood and also Kalatipatti.
Okay, right. Yeah, you can use in this second phrase, you can use optative, Kalatipatti, future, and present tense also.
and also I discussed with Searo, so they told me like Galadipati, we can use, even they belong to the past, but actually we can use three moments, like past, present, and future.
Present, future. Yes, that's right. Past, present, and future. That's why that is something. If we had not done it, this would not happen or something. He talks about past and future both.
Yes.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Any other difference of pronunciation Pāli between Lanka and talk about this R ending. Lankan language, in Sri Lankan language we call, there are two types of R's. We call Sangvutta and Vivutta. Sangvutta, Sangvutta and Vivata. When we say Vivata R, we call it not R. We call it the sound I think everyone can hear it. That is Vivata. Sangvutta is R and This according to the linguistics, it's a different vowel, because if you go into Thai, you know Thai, Thai have two vowels, R and Right? According to the English also, we consider it as a different sound, and R. So in Sinhalese, what has happened, in Sinhalese, if the vowel R is found in the first letter, like if it's first letter, like they hear Ta is the one letter, right? Not in Roman script. Don't think in the Roman script, because T is a consonant and it's connected with A. So this A, Ta, we normally pronounce as Ta, not as T. We pronounce as Ta. If the R comes after the first letter means both together I'm taking. If R comes after that letter, we pronounce it with A. For instance, we Dahara, right? So here in Sinhalese person would say Da, not the, Da, like I'll take another Ha, because Ha is always, sorry for exceptional for Ha. Ha, we know most of the cases we pronounce it as Ha, not Her. Ha is always Ha. In other cases, I'll give a different example. Khatara. You know, Khatara, Khatama, okay, Khatama. Right? So here, we first one we pronounce as Ka, not as K. But the remaining are not Ta and Ma. If you pronounce as in Myanmar or other traditions, we call Katama. That's how we pronounce Katama. But in Sinhalese, we would pronounce Katama. The second R which comes after the first letter, is pronounced as that is Katama, not Katama. First one is similar, Katama, Katama. Katama is the normal pronunciation. But in Sri Lanka, Katama. So that is why in the Namo Tassa, the final Namo Tassa, Samma Sambuddhassa we call, not Dassa, not Samma Sambuddhassa. But because since I lived in Myanmar for many years and this stayed with foreigners, like not the Sri Lankans, so I also used to pronounce in this way when we do classes or discussions with the other students. But in Sri Lanka, if I say Namo Tassa, it seems very weird. We call it Namo Tassa, because in Sinhalese grammar we have two types of R, but linguistically it is considered as a different vowel. And there was a research done by an Indian professor. He said he also wanted to emphasize on, so he said this happened with the time, so with some reasons. In Sri Lanka, this R become has evolved with the time. So this is one one difference. Because in Rupa Siddhi, we don't have two types of A. But in Sinhalese grammarians, we have two types of A. Then, if you're asking difference between pronunciation of Pāli between Sri Lanka and Myanmar, yeah, there are a lot. For example, if you talk about cha, right? In Myanmar, they pronounce it as za, sa, right? In Sri Lanka, it's cha, in Myanmar, is sa. But the thing is, their place of touch, like these words are pronounced by touching different places in the mouth. So the cha, our tongue touches the upper part of the mouth. So even the sa they pronounce, they touch the upper part of the mouth with the same place. So the articulation is the same. The sound produced is different. That's the reason. So if you analyze them, because the monks consider this articulation, like articulation means the way you touch to pronounce this sound, as very strictly for Vinaya Kammas. So in Myanmar, they pronounce it exactly as the book says. In Sri Lanka also, we pronounce it exactly as the book says. So, but we can make different sounds out of the same articulation. So that's why cha and sa, same place is touched. Slight difference, little bit of a difference how we touch it, but the place, the touch, the place where the tongue touches is the same. And also we have difference in tha and the ta, in Sri Lankan ta, which touches the teeth, is pronounced like ta. It's not this cha is, when I say cha is pronounced as sa, it doesn't mean it is sa. This is cha for them. The same place of articulate, because the letter is, the nature of a letter is decided by its articulate is pronounced. So here also when we say tha, Myanmar also pronounced with the same article. They touch the teeth with the tongue, but still they can make a different sound, like ta, ta. I'm touching the same place, ta, ta. So they are touching the teeth. It's a dental sound, but it comes like a lingual meaning, lingual sound for us. For the Sri Lankans, it's a lingual sound. So then we also have the difference in the sa. Sa is pronounced as ta in Myanmar. So here also we touch it sa, aspirated sound, touching the teeth, but Myanmar also touch the teeth ta, but they doesn't. In that sense, we don't see that aspirated voice, the breath coming out, but same place of articulation, same place of articulation. So cha and cha is pronounced as sa, ta is pronounced as ta, then sa is pronounced as ta. Then yeah, so these are different from other. There are differences in other letters. These are very distinct. These letters are very distinct. But if you go into Thai, this ka for Sri Lankans, I'm talking with a Sri Lankan aspect because that is how I feel. Normally we hear it as ga. Ka is heard as ga. And then the Sri Lankan ga, we hear in Thai as ka. Also, right? So when we say Kevali, they call it Gevali. Sankhatisisa. So ga is pronounced like ka for us, and our ka is pronounced like ga for them. So likewise, there are changes in the pronunciation. So that is obvious when the because another example we see in Sanskrit is this word re. So this word, if I learn India, they pronounce it like re, not re. It's a similar to that with an e sound, re. But when you come to South India and also Sri Lanka, which is in the southern, which is below the south of India, it's an island, but separated from India, but it has a lot of cultures, subcultures taken from northern India, southern India, eastern and western. It's fully influenced by Ru. So when we have the word Sanskrit, right? This Sanskrita. So in northern India, they pronounce it Sanskrita, but in Sri Lanka and southern India, they pronounce Sanskrita. So likewise, when the geographical changes, same letter can be pronounced differently. So that is very obvious. That is natural to any human being with the changes of the societies. So then if someone asks, is it okay or not? My personal, this is not the idea given in the tradition. Traditionally, they hold that it should be pronounced properly into one standard. Personally, what I feel, that's why the Buddha said, the teachings can be made by your own language. So I personally feel like even they translate the word teachings into a different language, and also if they still keep the Pāli as a standard language, but still how they pronounce in those regions would not affect the Vinaya Kammas and so forth, because that is how the language is pronounced. The more emphasis is not given in how you pronounce it, what is the essence or what is the meaning of the teachings.
Hi, Bhante.
Any questions on that?
Yes, hi, Bhante.
Yes, Dr. Ryan.
Yeah, I have a question related to this. So the word is, okay, I'll spell it out. This
Okay.
B-R-A-H-M-A.
Okay.
B-R-A-H-M-A. So you pronounce it B-R-A-H-M-A, yeah.
Is it
so
correct? Okay, right.
Yeah, you pronounce it Brahma. So if
Yeah.
I did not know that word, if I did not know this word, I would spell it as B-R-A-G-M-A. So is there a reason why you pronounce it that?
Brahma. How would you pronounce if you don't know?
I mean, because I know this word, so I would pronounce this word as Brahma, Brahma.
Okay.
But because you pronounce Brahma, if I did not know that word, when I hear you say that, I would spell it as B-R-A-G-M-A.
G-M-A.
Yeah, because you say Brahma. So there is the ka sound in there. So it would pronounce, it would, yeah, that I would write it that way if I didn't know this word. So can you explain why you pronounce it like that?
That is, I think, I think that is I'm saying my pronunciation is a bit wrong, I would call it. What you say is Brahma is correct. But when I say it's Brahma, right? Brahma.
Yes, that's what I hear you say.
That is a how to corrupted pronunciation, I would call, because of the when we keep on, there are few words that I myself have such corrupted pronunciation because we don't give much emphasis on subtle things. Because everyone can understand. When I say Brahma, everyone in the country would understand it. So as you said, even now I found it when you said that what you're saying is, yes, correct. The proper pronunciation would be Brahma.
Does that mean that it is your, so your own pronunciation, your own way of pronunciation, or is it like, all of the, I say, Sri Lankan monks, they would pronounce that way too?
Some would pronounce correctly. Some would pronounce correctly, but I think what I hear is the corrupted pronunciation mostly.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay. That's what happened with the time. For example, the students who study under me would get my influence. So afterwards, after a few generations, this corrupted pronunciation would be there. So that's what has happened actually, in some cases.
Okay,
thank you. Anyway, thank you for pointing it out.
Yeah, so no, it's because I remember the first few times I heard you said that is very strange to me. Yeah.
Actually, my pronunciation is this. Brahma.
Yes.
This is the K with K
Yeah,
actually. What I
Yeah,
pronounce it.
because in English we have the word like pragmatic.
Okay.
Then
Pragmatic.
usually
Okay.
yes, because then when you hear that way, then you spell it. It's going to be Pragma. So that's how we would spell it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
So Bhante, before you mentioned the R pronounced as a that is we
Yeah.
call schwa sound. Schwa sound.
Sorry?
Schwa sound. Yeah.
Can
It's
you
English
spell
terminology.
it?
SCHWA.
SCH.
Yes, SCHWA. Yes, we call schwa sound.
Some.
No, schwa sound.
Schwa sound. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for that. Schwa. Right. Schwa sound.
And then another question is, sometimes the ha sound is between the ma, so looks like Myanmar and Sri Lanka, the pronunciation is quite different.
Like.
Hello, can you hear me?
Then another. Yeah. Hello.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes the ha is between the ma, right? Sometimes the ha is after the ma and the ha is before the ma. The Myanmar and Sri Lanka pronunciation is quite different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So which one is better?
Yeah, this is another point. Like this, you write Brahma.
Hello, Andy? Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Andy,
Bhante is living.
maybe he lost his connection.
Yeah, I want to ask because I heard the Pāli saddle pronounced like Dume, but Sri Lanka they pronounce like Donghe, and also like the double S in Tassa. I feel that Sri Lankan people they stop a little bit in the first S if there's double S, but for Myanmar people they feel they just pronounce like only single S like Dasa, but Sri Lanka they stop a little bit. I type my question to everyone actually. Also the wisdom, the word Panya, that's Sri Lankan way. Then I came to Pāl, then I heard the Pāl saddle chanting Banya. So I'm confused which way is better at that.
Okay, thank you. Maybe when Brandy comes, so we can discuss about that.
Okay.
Okay.